The Boston Athenaeum is one of the oldest independent libraries in the country. Since it was founded in 1807, it's grown to house more than 600,000 volumes, rich in literature, biography, and history.
It really is a resource for anyone who's curious about any parts of history in the city of Boston.
Theo Tyson is a former fellow in American art and culture here. One of the Athenaeum's more recent acquisitions is the Harriet Hayden albums.
This is an album not just of African Americans that were based in Boston, but named and fully identified African Americans.
The carte de visite style photographs inside were presented to Harriet Hayden, a survivor of slavery originally from Kentucky who became an anti-slavery activist in Boston.
One of the common practices was you would have like a little bowl in the parlor entrance of your home, and as people are coming in and out, they're leaving these carte de visites as calling cards.
Between these two albums, there are 87 photos of men, women, and children.
You can see the variety in the community that was closest to Harriet Hayden's home and maybe even to her heart.
Hayden's home was located just a 7-minute walk from the Athenaeum.
One of the most critical and integral spots and stops on the Underground Railroad.
After 2 years of freedom in Canada, Harriet and her husband, famed abolitionist Lewis Hayden, moved to Boston in 1846 to join the fight to emancipate others. A year later, they converted their Beacon Hill home into a boarding house.
It's a fairly large home on Phillip Street, and they were able to house anywhere from 7 to a dozen, if not more, people that were trying to emancipate themselves.
Once free, these survivors were eager to step into an identity for which they were responsible.
Taking that first carte de visite and having the ability to take that first image where you're in control is very similar to the idea of assuming a new name.
The poses captured in these photographs are filled with dignity and pride.
The dresses and suits are immaculate and so detailed and well adorned. You can see why this was something that became essentially a social media craze before there was social media. People wanted to be in control of how they were portrayed in society.
Another important detail in these albums is the names accompanying some of the photos, a rare written record.
We have one of 3 carte de visites of Dr. John Van Serly de Grasse. He was one of the first African Americans recorded to receive their passage through the Massachusetts medical exam.
Not all of the people are identified, but the Athenaeum hopes to change that. Each photo, front and back, has been digitized and posted online for all to see.
As we start to play Tetris with the names and dates and images in the album, hopefully we'll be able to connect the dots a bit better.
The Athenaeum is encouraging members of the public to engage with the albums and help connect those dots.
Not only can you view them online, you can zoom in and out and start to pick up characteristics that you might not see in the physical album. And what's been coming up quite a bit is, I think this person is my great-great aunt, or I think this person may have been married to this person.
The Athenaeum hopes these albums will become living artifacts.
There's a living history there and a narrative that has not been fully told at this point. The only way to tell that narrative in its entirety is to engage the community. Because again, this is their history, not just the history of the Athenaeum, not just the history of this city.
And if you would like to learn more about the Haydens, their Beacon Hill home is part of the National Park Service's Black Heritage Tour, which is offered to the public throughout the summer.
And as we mentioned, the Harriet Hayden albums are available to everyone online. You don't need a membership to the Athenaeum. And Theo Tyson now has a new position at the MFA as Curator of Fashion Arts.
All right, coming up, digging deep in Jamaica Plain.